Marcus Rothwell had everything. A corner office in Manhattan. A wife who believed in him. 2 children who called him their hero. But on the morning of October 14, 2019, Marcus walked out of his apartment building, turned left instead of right, and vanished from existence. His phone was found 3 days later on a park bench, battery dead, no fingerprints. His car sat untouched in the parking garage. Security footage showed him entering the subway at 7:42 a.m., but he never emerged. The police called it a missing person case. His wife called it a tragedy. But 6 months later, a bank transfer from the Cayman Islands told a very different story. Marcus Rothwell wasn't missing. He was hiding. And the reason why would shatter everything his family thought they knew about the man they loved. To understand why Marcus disappeared, you need to understand what he left behind. From the outside, his life looked like a blueprint for success. He graduated top of his class from Columbia Business School in 1998. By 30, he was managing a portfolio worth over $200 million. By 35, he was a senior vice president at Whitmore Financial, one of the most prestigious investment banks in New York. His annual bonus alone was more than most people earned in a decade. But money wasn't what defined Marcus to those who knew him. It was his character. He coached his son's Little League team every Saturday. He volunteered at a homeless shelter on Thanksgiving. His colleagues described him as honest, dependable, almost boring in his reliability. His wife, Catherine, told police he was the most predictable man she'd ever met. He drank black coffee, read the Wall Street Journal every morning, and called his mother every Sunday at exactly 6 p.m. There were no signs of depression. No financial troubles. No affairs. No enemies. Just a man who lived by routine, by discipline, by control. Until the day that control shattered. Catherine noticed something was wrong 3 weeks before he disappeared. Marcus had always been a light sleeper, but now he barely slept at all. She'd wake at 3 a.m. to find him sitting at the kitchen table, staring at nothing, his face pale and drawn. When she asked what was wrong, he'd smile that practiced smile and say he was just stressed about a client. But Catherine knew her husband. And this wasn't stress. This was fear. When Marcus didn't come home that first night, Catherine called everyone she could think of. His office said he never arrived for his 9 a.m. meeting. His assistant hadn't heard from him. His best friend hadn't seen him in 2 weeks. By day 3, the police were involved. By day 7, the media had picked up the story. Banking executive vanishes without trace, read the headlines. Tips flooded in. Someone saw him boarding a train to Boston. Another claimed he was at a casino in Atlantic City. None of it led anywhere. The investigation revealed nothing suspicious in his finances, no unusual purchases, no secret accounts. His laptop showed only work emails and financial reports. His calendar was full of meetings that would never happen. Then came the break. 6 months after Marcus disappeared, Catherine received a letter from a law firm in the Cayman Islands. It was brief, professional, completely devastating. It informed her that a bank account under her husband's name had been flagged for inactivity. The account contained $1.7 million. Money she never knew existed. Money he'd been moving offshore for the past 8 years. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the transaction history. Because every deposit, every transfer, every movement of money pointed to one source. A company called Meridian Holdings. A company that didn't exist. At least, not legally. Meridian Holdings was a shell corporation Marcus had created in 2011. And according to federal investigators who got involved after Catherine contacted them, it was used for one purpose. To hide embezzled funds. The federal investigation moved fast. Within weeks, they'd traced Marcus's scheme back nearly a decade. It started small. A few $1,000s here, a rounding error there. Clients who trusted him completely. Elderly investors who didn't check their statements carefully. He'd skim from their returns, cover it with false reports, and move the money through a network of shell companies before it landed offshore. Over 9 years, he'd stolen $4.3 million from 17 different clients. Most of them were retirees. People who'd worked their entire lives and trusted Marcus to protect their future. The method was sophisticated. He used real market fluctuations to hide his theft. When the market dropped, he'd claim losses that were slightly larger than reality. When it rose, he'd report gains slightly smaller than actual. The difference went into his pocket. His clients never suspected. Why would they? Marcus was the man who remembered their grandchildren's names. Who sent birthday cards? Who called to check on them after surgeries? He built trust the way other people build walls. Brick by brick, smile by smile, lie by lie. But in 2019, something changed. One of his clients, a 78-year-old widow named Dorothy Chen, decided to move her money to be closer to her daughter in California. She requested a full audit of her account. Marcus had 2 weeks to produce documentation that didn't exist. Documentation that would expose 9 years of carefully constructed fraud. He had 2 choices. Face federal prison and destroy his family's life. Or disappear. He chose door number 3. He'd fake his death, live off the offshore money, and let everyone believe he was the victim of some tragic accident. It almost worked. Marcus made it 7 months. 7 months living in a small apartment in Belize under the name David Morrison. He'd grown a beard, dyed his hair, learned to speak with a slight accent. He told his neighbors he was a retired teacher from Canada. He spent his days reading on the beach and his nights trying not to think about his children. He called them once, using a disposable phone from an internet cafe. He didn't say anything. Just listened to his daughter's voice saying hello, hello, is anyone there? He hung up before she could hear him crying. But Marcus made a mistake. The same mistake that catches almost everyone who tries to disappear. He got lonely. He started using social media under his fake name. He joined expat groups. He posted photos of sunsets, carefully cropped to hide his face. And in one photo, taken at a beachside bar in Belize, his reflection was visible in a window. Just a glimpse. Just enough. A former colleague saw the photo shared in an expat forum. She recognized something in the posture, the way he held his drink. She contacted the FBI. 3 weeks later, Marcus Rothwell was arrested while buying groceries in Belize City. He didn't run. Didn't fight. According to the agents who arrested him, he actually looked relieved. Like a man who'd been holding his breath underwater and finally broke the surface. The trial lasted 4 months. Catherine attended every day, sitting in the back row, her face unreadable. Their children never came. Marcus pled guilty to 17 counts of wire fraud and 1 count of money laundering. His lawyer argued for leniency, citing his cooperation and remorse. The prosecution argued he was a calculating predator who stole from the vulnerable. The judge sentenced him to 12 years in federal prison. Before he was led away, Marcus asked to make a statement. What he said lasted less than 3 minutes, but it revealed more than the entire investigation had uncovered. Marcus didn't steal the money because he was greedy. He stole it because he was desperate. In 2010, his younger brother Daniel was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. Stage 4. Experimental treatments were available, but insurance wouldn't cover them. The cost was astronomical. $200,000 for each round of treatment. Marcus took out loans. Maxed out credit cards. Sold everything he could. But it wasn't enough. Daniel had a wife and 3 young children. Marcus couldn't let him die. So he took the money. Just once, he told himself. Just enough to cover 1 treatment. But cancer doesn't negotiate. It doesn't care about your intentions or your morals. Daniel needed more treatments. Then more. Then more. Marcus kept stealing. Daniel lived for 3 more years. Better years. Years where he saw his children grow. Years where he felt hope. Then in 2013, Daniel passed away anyway. The cancer won. And Marcus was left with a secret he couldn't undo. He'd stolen nearly $2 million by then. There was no way to return it without destroying his life, his career, his family. So he kept going. Not for his brother anymore. But because he was trapped. Because the lie had become bigger than the man. By the time Dorothy Chen asked for her audit, Marcus had been looking for a way out for years. He couldn't confess. Couldn't face what he'd become. So he chose to vanish instead. In the courtroom that day, Catherine finally understood. Her husband wasn't a monster. He was a man who made one terrible choice out of love, and then spent 9 years drowning in the consequences. It didn't excuse what he did. But it explained it. The victims had a different perspective. Dorothy Chen gave a statement that silenced the courtroom. She said Marcus had stolen more than her money. He'd stolen her ability to trust. To feel safe. And no sad story about his brother would give that back. Marcus Rothwell is currently serving his sentence at a federal correctional facility in Pennsylvania. He'll be eligible for parole in 2029. Catherine divorced him in 2021. She sold their apartment, moved to Vermont with their children, and changed their last name. She never spoke publicly about the case after the trial ended. The victims were partially compensated from the seized offshore accounts, but most of them lost significant portions of their life savings. Dorothy Chen said in an interview that she forgave Marcus, not for his sake, but for her own peace. Several of the other victims said they never would. The case became a landmark in financial fraud prosecution, cited in law schools and ethics courses. But beyond the legal implications, it raises a question that has no easy answer. If someone you loved was dying, and you had the power to save them by hurting strangers you'd never meet, what would you do? Marcus chose to steal. To betray the trust of vulnerable people. To lie every day for years. And when the weight became unbearable, he chose to abandon everyone who loved him rather than face the truth. There's no redemption arc here. No lesson that makes it okay. Just a man who tried to save one life and destroyed dozens of others in the process. Including his own. Catherine was asked once, in the only interview she ever gave, if she still loved him. She said something that's haunted everyone who heard it. She said she loved the man she thought he was. But that man never existed. The Marcus she married was already a fiction. Already drowning. Already lost. And by the time she realized it, there was nothing left to save. That's the real tragedy. Not that Marcus faked his death. But that in trying to save his brother, he killed himself long before he ever disappeared. The man who walked into that subway station in 2019 was already a ghost.